So in today's agenda, we're just going to do obviously an introduction. We're just going to touch on the apps that you're probably already using. So there's plenty of stuff that you're probably already using there. The apps that you should be using, so these are apps that we use internally here. So this is not a do as we say, not as we do type of scenario. We actually use these and they're hugely beneficial. So being a professional services company, just like you guys are, these are beneficial for us and we think they'll be beneficial for you as well. We'll talk about the functions and the features and the use cases, particularly in the context of a law firm. And then at the end, we have a special offer for attendees. So just as a quick introduction, your Office 365 subscription includes a lot more applications than just the ones you probably use day to day. So the Outlook, Word and Excel. We're just going to run through some of the other stuff that we can use. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but we're just going to run through the highest value ones or what we think the highest value ones are in that application stack that will help you operate your firm more efficiently. So the first thing that we're going to do is have a look at how we access all of the apps. So if you are an Office 365 user and you don't navigate to office.com all that often, we can see here, I've just brought up another window. If you navigate to office.com, you'll see some stuff in here, but to access all apps, there's this panel on the left-hand side, and we can see there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Right down the bottom, we actually have a button for all apps. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire that up, and in here we can see all of the apps that we have access to. And apologies for not looking at the camera, I've got the two screens going here too. So we can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff in the all apps area. So if you've not been in here and had a look at what some of these things are, I do encourage you to jump in and have a look at some point in time. Open them up, you can't break anything. So it's always worthwhile jumping in and having a look. And we can see that there's actually brief descriptions against all of the apps there if we hover our mouse over them. So the next thing that we want to, or that I wanted to touch on was the licensing side of things. So there's different subscriptions that include different apps within the Microsoft 365 realm. And when I refer to Microsoft 365, I'm referring to what used to be called Office 365, just to clarify here. Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, changed the name of it last year. So it's now Microsoft 365. So the easiest way to tell which subscription you have, if you don't know, just by looking at the pricing, and this is all available online, is just to go into office.com, go to all apps, and just see what you have there as your inclusions. The easiest way, apart from doing that, I find, to determine which license tier you are on, basically 365 Business Basic only includes online apps, and Business Standard includes the desktop applications. So if you downloaded Office 365 and you have the desktop applications installed on your device, that is a surefire way of being able to tell that you have Business Standard. Now, Business Standard includes most of the apps that we are actually going to be looking at today. Most of those are not included in Business Basic, so it's just worth keeping that in mind. If you're on Business Basic, you won't have most of these. If you're on Business Standard, you will have all of these. So that's the easiest way that you can tell. And if you go to Microsoft.com, you can see all of the pricing. It's all there, publicly listed, and we sell it for exactly the same price. So some apps that you're likely already using. So most people who are using Office 365 already have their email set up there. So that's Exchange or Exchange Online, your online email server. Teams, so we're obviously on Teams today doing this webinar. We can, I can't share that window, but that's okay. We're on Teams today doing our webinar, so this is a new function of Teams as well. Feel free to shoot me a message after the thing if you'd like to have a look at the webinar functionality. And OneDrive. So they're the online apps that we tend to find that firms are using, and then obviously the desktop applications as well. So some of the apps that we think you should be using are some of these ones. Now, we've dropped the icons in there. They will mean absolutely nothing to anybody except technical people like me, of course. But what we're actually looking at in terms of those icons is we have Microsoft SharePoint. So it is an enterprise document management system that is part of the Microsoft 365 stack. And we find that most firms aren't actually using it for document management. You have network files and you have your practice management system, but it's all of that other stuff that we'd like to see firms putting in there. It's hugely beneficial. We have Microsoft Planner, which is our tasks platform for managing individual and team tasks for projects. So we use this internally a lot. It's one of our favorite apps in the stack. We also have Microsoft Bookings, which is the B here. So it is your online booking solution for Microsoft 365. So the same way that you book in with the doctor and you do it online, or you might book in with your hairdresser and do it online, it gives you the same capability for each of the people within your Office 365 stack to be able to post or publish services online so that people can book with them directly, which is really advantageous. We also have the Power Automate application. So Power Automate is for creating flows and automating jobs and functions within Office 365. Hugely powerful, and we'll see a little bit more about that later in the presentation. And then we obviously have Microsoft Forms, which is just a digital form builder, so an online digital form builder, very convenient. So yeah, we also like that one. So what we'll do is we'll have a quick chat through the functions and features of each of the applications, and then we'll do a quick demonstration on each of them so that you can actually see those in practice. So SharePoint functions and features. So SharePoint can be a little bit of a complicated beast. It has an interesting history where people have seen it as an intranet or something that doesn't work, or lots of things, but it's now at a point in time where certainly ServiceScaler has spent a lot of time within that application, worked out where it fits and how it can work. So yes, it can be an intranet, but it is actually an enterprise document management system. So as part of 365, where would you actually store your files as a replacement for what used to be network folders, or you might have it in some other form of cloud application like Dropbox or Drive? SharePoint's an enterprise document management system and can be configured that way. So the way that SharePoint works is it has sites. So each site is basically a block or a filing cabinet within the SharePoint environment. And they have members that are allowed to see the content within the site. So you add members, so users within your environment, you add them to the site, and that will give them access to essentially that filing cabinet and everything that's contained within it. It will then have libraries. So within the filing cabinet, you'll have a series of libraries, so document libraries. You can have list libraries as well, so it can capture just data, but quite often we're configuring document libraries, so places you can store documents so that you can categorize those. Some of the other advantages of that is that it works the same way as OneDrive. So you can connect those document libraries that you create, you can add them to your OneDrive and sync them locally to your device. So they just work like a network drive would historically, which is something that we certainly like because it's really easy and familiar to use for most of our users. And the other thing that it has is web parts. So it's widgets that actually sit on the site, on the home page. And it can bring up data from the site and also from external locations as well. So we'll have a quick look at that in a second. And the other thing that it does is it's really well integrated across the 365 stack. So it's integrated in Teams. So if you create a site and you have members, it will also create a corresponding team so that you have a Teams channel. You can chat, you can share information. It links directly back to the site. You can have notepads and or notebooks. You can have planner plans, all sorts of stuff linked to that group. So why would you do that? If you have a departmentalized business, so say you had different practice groups, this is a really good example. So you might do family law and commercial litigation. You would have a different site for each of those. And that would give that team the ability to share information that's only relevant to them. So you might have the court calendar or the court roster as a calendar within a SharePoint site that is only relevant to the family law team, and you might have the same thing for the commercial litigation team as an example. So I'm going to open up SharePoint. So we've actually built out a basic SharePoint structure with a few things just so that we can demo it. So over on the left hand side here, we can see we have SharePoint, but if we look in all apps, we will be able to see it here. SharePoint. So I'm just going to open that up so that we can have a quick look. So when we talk about sites, this is how it comes up, just as a bunch of tiles. Now, all of this is completely customizable. So out of the box, this is what it looks like, but it's completely customizable in the way we do it. So we can have different landing pages, different designs, different navigation, all sorts of stuff, just depending on what your requirements are. So I'm just going to jump into our ServiceScaler demo site, just so that we can have a look at a couple of these functions. Now, the first thing that you'll see here, these are the web parts. So we can see here that we have upcoming leave requests, just as an example of something. So we're pulling that data for upcoming leave requests from a calendar, which we have created within the site, and they'll get presented up here. There's actually Power Automate links to this so that we can do leave requests and applications and daisy chain applications together within the 365 stack, which is pretty cool. We'll come back to that with the Power Automate piece. Here we can see we just have some links. So if we hover our mouse over those, down the bottom, you can see that they all go off to forms.office.com. So they're digital forms that we've created. We also have our external links, so off to some external sites. So just quick links for quick navigation for people so they don't have to save them in their browser or do all those types of things. So if you have a new employee come in, you add them to the site and you go, here's the links to all of the relevant stuff so that they don't have to manually create and save things. We've added some clocks in here as well, just for different time zones. So we obviously have customers over in Western Australia. It's good to know what time it is over there and whether it's okay to call them or not. So we can see that there's different time zones in there. And here's some team tasks. This is from Planner. So we can embed a Planner widget basically onto the homepage. It's just for a quick snapshot of things that are going on. And we can see some recent documents there as well. So some stuff that we've uploaded into the site. Over on the left-hand side, this is where we have our libraries. So within the libraries, we have a few different bits and pieces. So we have a contracts register, for example. There's a couple of documents that sit in here. We can customize all of these metadata fields. So when I say it's a proper document management system, I do mean that. It is a proper document management system where we can attach metadata, so mandatory and non-mandatory fields. There is all different types of fields that we can have against these. So if someone wants to upload a document into there, we can force them to fill out those fields as they go through. There's list type libraries as well. So basically this is an Excel spreadsheet hosted in the SharePoint environment. It might be convenient. This one we used for stationary orders, just as an example. There's another one here for leave requests that is has a few more things going on. So we can see approval statuses, and things like that. That's actually attached to Power Automate as part of a workflow. And coming back to Planner, we did touch on that, but we'll come back to it. But you can actually have a Planner page for a specific site, so for a specific team, and we can see some things in Planner there. All right, the next thing that we're going to have a look at is forms. So the ability to create digital forms. We really like this. If you've signed up to our webinars before, you would have filled in one of our digital forms through Forms. And if you're an existing customer of ours, it will be the same. So as part of our onboarding procedure, we send out a form, we get people to fill in that digital form, and behind the scenes, it routes off and creates your accounts with us, your a couple other bits and pieces. It sends some notifications just to let people know that the onboarding process is happening. Really, really cool. So you can customize the branding, you can publish it internally and externally, which is convenient. So you might have internal forms if you're a big organization. The data is collected in an Excel spreadsheet. So we actually collect everything as data, which means that we can use it. And that data can be pushed through to other systems automatically using Power Automate. So Power Automate is creating those flows or those processes where we go, okay, when someone fills in that form, take that data and put that data into this location or create this transaction or create this file or create this matter, whatever it happens to be. All of those things can be automated. So it's quite a powerful tool there. To get to forms, again, it is the same process. We go to all apps in office.com. We can see forms there. We'll click and open that. we actually have a couple of forms in here already. So we've just sort of replicated our client onboarding form. Now this is the administrative view. So we're having a look at how we can configure the form. Very, very simple. So we just have some fields in here, some mandatory fields, collecting some information. We can see we have text fields, we can have number fields, we can have date fields, you know, these sorts of bits and pieces. If we preview this form, it will actually show us what it looks like. So this is a new client onboarding form, takes 6 minutes to complete, but we can see that it's has pagination in it as well. So, you know, you fill this page in next and fill in the next page next, which is quite good. If we just go back to forms, when we create a new form, we go new form and have an untitled form. We can change the theme, so we can put some branding on there. If you like being under the ocean or something, you could have the octopus. I'm not sure that that's going to be on brand for many firms, but there's quite a few things that you can have in here. And basically you just add in new choice, text, rating. There's a few other options that you can have here, but really quick and simple to configure. Once it's done, we go share. We have a link. So you can see here, send and collect responses. Only people in my organization, anyone can respond. Means that you'll be able to publish that link externally and external people can fill it in. Very, very convenient. I'll jump back to our presentation. So the next one we're going to have a look at is bookings. Now, I don't actually have bookings configured in my environment, so I have it open in another tab. So to get to bookings, again, all apps, bookings. Now, this is essentially a fresh bookings environment, so there's not much configured in here yet. So you can see we don't have a logo, it's just a demo, it's saying good morning to me. But how does it work? Well, it's an online calendar system, so people can book with you directly online. It's integrated to your calendar. So at the moment, I've just configured myself and Sky in here, and we can set services, so we can have different services. So this one is an initial consult, for example. It's an hour duration. We can set a price and we can assign staff to it. So if you have a service and it might be an initial discussion and you have, say, 3 people that someone can select to have an initial discussion or an onboarding discussion with, you assign those staff and they are then become selectable in the interface. So if we jump back and have a look, we have a booking page. So we can actually open the published page. It's very pretty in pink today. We can see here that we have an initial consult, so you can send someone this link and basically you can select a staff member. So we might say that it's me. We might have a look at Monday and we can see the availability. Now this is coming directly from my calendar based on what's booked in my calendar. We can also capture some additional details here to go through. So we might want to capture their name and their email and book it. One of the other things that is really advantageous, if we go back to configuring the settings, is we can see here that we can add an online meeting. So if you want this to be a Teams meeting, you'd simply check add online meeting and it will book it as a Teams meeting to do it all online. You can obviously set the duration. There's a few other options in here which you can go through and tinker around with to see how they work. But if you do need some input on this, on how to configure it, feel free to reach out to me after the webinar and I can run you through those things. That's all good. So the next thing that we have in our list is Planner. So again, it is the same process as we use to access all of the rest of the things within the Office 365 stack. We go to office.com. Go to all apps. Now you can see there's actually shortcuts and ways that you can use the icons. That's why we use the icons so that you remember what they are. But here we have Planner. So it gives you the ability to create and assign tasks to individuals or teams, add task list items to each of the tasks. So you might have a task to do something and then there's a checklist of items that need to be done or subtasks. You can group tasks into categories or buckets, set due dates with reminders. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do. This is in our demo tenant, so there's actually not a lot of data in here at the moment. But as an example, there might be, I can see in my tasks here that there's a couple of things that I need to do that have been assigned to me. They are overdue, but that's okay. So we can see that we have a bucket for blog articles. So we have a team that might be our business development department. We have blog articles that need to be done as part of our content marketing. So they'll go into the bucket of blog articles. And basically, every time we have an idea or a knowledge idea or an article idea, we'll add a new task in and assign that to somebody. So we can see a due date, there might be some notes, we can see our checklist items, we can have attachments, and we can assign that to an individual or a team as well. So it doesn't have to just be assigned to an individual, we can assign that to multiple people. Ironically, things your firm needs for 2021 on SharePoint, all of it is my recommendation. But we can see that I have not yet completed that task. Good thing is once it reaches the due date, we get a notification. All of those things are just built in as part of the system. We can see the charts of items to be done. So there's some nice graphical stuff there. And we can see the schedule. So we can see where the tasks sit on our calendar within Planner. So the next thing that we are going to have a look at is Power Automate. So Power Automate gives us the ability to create automated workflows with different triggers. So there might be different triggers, it might be time, it might be when something happens, when a piece of data changes, when an email is received from a particular person. All of these types of things will act as a trigger. It's the perfect tool to move data, documents, and tasks around the Office 365 stack. So as an example, we might go, okay, well, we have a new client onboarding form, we send that to them. When that's been completed, we want to send a notification to the account manager. We want to send a notification off to accounts with the information so that they can provision the account side of things and request money be placed into trust. We can create tasks. We can create a record in our CRM or in our practice management system. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do with that. The distinctive advantage of it is the ability to daisy chain applications together. So we have forms that will write stuff out to SharePoint, which will create calendar tasks in Exchange or in our calendar, might be a shared calendar or our personal calendar, but you can daisy chain applications together. So I can move data between them, create transactions where they need to be created. And because everything, I hope, is in the Office 365 system, we'll be able to draw on the resources, teams, groups, sites, whatever it happens to be, to actually make that work. So it's a really powerful tool in terms of workflow to be able to string those applications together to make sure that we're not manually copying and pasting stuff through. It's a no-code platform, so sometimes you can put a little bit of code in there, but for the most part, it's a no-code platform. So you can actually go in there and look at templates and basically just drop them in, selectable lists. You can pick stuff to do it. We'll have a look at that in a second. And you can have personal, which is user-based one. So users can jump in there and create their own little flows to automate functions that they're doing all of the time. And you can have business-based ones as well. So if you have one that's going to apply to the business more broadly, you can set it up under a dedicated account that's actually going to run those flows for you via Power Automate. So I'm going to bring it up and we can have a bit of a look at it. There's some that I'd configured previously for other webinars that we've done on workflow. So if we jump into Power Automate and have a look, so again, same process, we go to office.com, all apps, Power Automate. So this is what the interface looks like. So you can see here, easiest thing, start from a template. So we can see here when the status of a task in Planner changes to complete, notify a channel. When we're talking about a channel, we're talking about a Teams channel, which is linked to a SharePoint site, so that same group. So if you had a department of the business or a practice group, and when something gets completed in Planner and you want to notify everybody in that group, you could just click that, put in some basic configuration to make that work. So really, really good. If we have a look at some of my flows, so the ones that have already been configured, this will give you a better idea of stuff that we have actually put in place. So one is forms processing to email and SharePoint. This is from the client onboarding, so the onboarding document. If I edit that, we can actually have a look at what it contains. So the trigger, when a new response is submitted via a form, we want to do apply to each, which means each response that is received. This is what we want to do with it. Now, I know that it may look a little bit overwhelming looking at it here, but it's actually relatively simple. So we're just going to get the response details, so the form responses. We're going to send an email notification and create an item in SharePoint, which will just be a list item. So we'll send an email notification to somebody. We'll create a task. So we're going to create a task and send an email notification that a task has been created. So that might be up to accounts or to a practice manager, for example. And we'll also send another email notification back to the client saying, hey, your information's been received. This is what we've collected. It will take this amount of time to complete your onboarding process before we'll reach out. So we can do some expectation management as well. So it's a pretty simple one that will happen all the time. So they're the things that we want to try and automate using tools like this. We can send form responses for approval. So we can do an approval process as well. We can send things to Planner and assign them. So that's something that we do quite a lot, is send things across to Planner and assign them to people to be executed. This one's another one that's a little bit left of field. It's contract expiry upcoming. So we looked at our contracts register before, where we have a contract expiry date. And what this flow does is we can open it up and have a look at it. What it does is every day at 3 o'clock, it will run through and try and find any contract that is 3 days from expiry. And then it will send a reminder. It's not bringing that up. That's okay. And it will just send a notification saying, hey, these are the ones that are due to expire in the next 3 days. So those are the types of things that you can do. And look, at the end of the day, just save somebody manually going in and trawling through those, trying to find where some contract expiries are happening. It's all just automated. I love this because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to go and do all of that. I don't want to have to think about it. I just want to, hey, this expires in 3 days, you better do something about it, or 30 days or 90 days, whenever it happens to be, go and do something about it. So I particularly like Power Automate. I think it's very, very powerful. And it certainly binds all of those things in the Office 365 stack together. I'll jump back to our presentation here. So there's a whole lot more available, and we've only really scratched the surface of some of the things that we can do. The idea of today was just a bit of an information session or an introduction to some of those things that are there. I would recommend that you go in and have a play around. Like I said, really there's nothing you can break. If you're licensed to do it, go in and tinker around and do some education. If you get stuck, our special offer today is that anyone who's attended today's session eligible for a free half-hour consult with our team. So that can be with me or one of our engineers that are here to go through and just have a look and help you configure some stuff out. So if you wanted to do the online bookings thing, it's really, really simple. Half an hour of time, we'll be able to guide you through how to get that configured. It might be to do some forms. It might be to do something basic in Power Automate to help you create a flow or create your first flow to automate a process within your practice. So you can actually leverage that. If you would like to take us up on that offer, feel free to reach out to Sky. I think Sky's been emailing you all or will be emailing you all after the event so that you can take us up on that, and we'll get you booked in from there using bookings, of course. If you do have any other questions or you do not follow us, make sure that you get in touch, follow us on our socials. And again, thank you for coming along today.